These are really important to think about because all those overlap, those create your social location, as mentioned by Kirk and Okazawa Ray in Identities and Social Locations. Who am I? Who are my people? That idea of the social location is very closely connected to who you are. So when you're talking about your code of ethics, your social location may have a very, very direct impact on why you believe what you believe. Okay, so it's really good to use that theory as a way to analyze your own beliefs. Also look at the idea of structural inequality that relates to the dominant and subordinate categories, and that societal structure that gives power to some and takes power away from others. Right? It already exists before you're born. There's nothing you can really do about it other than maybe later in life you can start to try to dismantle it to a certain extent. And for people with privilege, dismantling it means giving up some of the power. So that's really hard to do. Why would you give up your power? But I think that's where empathy comes in. When you start to realize that by relinquishing some power that you've been automatically privileged with, it actually increases the good of the people and the human rights for everyone. Something else I just recently read was that somebody did a study looking at how people interpret racism. And what they found was that conservatives typically see racism as something personal, whereas liberals tend to see racism as something systemic. So if somebody is called a racist, or hey, you just said something racist, typically conservatives will take that to mean like, well, I didn't do anything personally. I had nothing to do with slavery. I had nothing to do with this thing that's happened in the past, and that's true. But at the same time, there's not an acknowledgement of the fact that there is a systemic problem of racism that affects a lot of people. So think about that. Like if you're conservative and you're having a conversation with a liberal, or if you're a liberal having a conversation with a conservative, it's quite possible that when you're talking about the concept of racism, for example, or even sexism, you might be talking about two kind of different things that are closely related. And it's really important to try to figure out where the other person is coming from in order to understand what they mean, right? There's a lot of people who may not have ever done anything deliberately racist, and so they say, yeah, I'm not racist. Our society isn't racist. Whereas somebody else might say, the whole structure of the system is racist, so by default, we are all participators in a racist system, and we may be racist to a certain degree. And that's just a different way of looking at things, two different ways, and you need to look at the truths and the limits of both of those. Something else that I wanted to talk about too is my tone in comments, right? When you're reading my comments, make sure that you're reading them in kind of the tone that I'm talking to you right now. For example, they're meant to be friendly. If you're saying something like, or if you see something where I've written like, you might want to clarify something. I'm not saying it, you might want to clarify something. I'm not saying it in like an antagonistic tone. I'm saying it like, you might want to clarify this. It will help the argument. And so it's really important to do that, especially in an online class, is to remember that I'm here to help. Remember that I want to assist you, and if there's something going on behind the scenes where you're feeling attacked or you're feeling confused or something that I've said has rubbed you the wrong way, let me know so that we can work it out. Because I never do anything to intentionally harm or annoy somebody or make this class bad for you, right? So if you have questions, please contact me. Something else that I'd like to talk about too is like just some very basic ideas. For example, if you're looking at the framework for ethical decision making, make sure that you are really familiar with the 5 approaches to making ethical decisions. Rights approach, fairness, justice approach, there's a number of others. Take a look at them, make sure that you know those. In the Right versus Right article, you've got the 4 dilemma paradigms: truth versus loyalty, justice versus mercy, individual versus community, and short-term versus long-term. It's really important to be able to identify those because you can start to use them to help analyze your own code of ethics. Also, don't forget, in that article, it has 3 ways of solving the problems: ends-based, rule-based, and care-based. Those are some of the ideas that are key to using to get a good outcome on your code of ethics analysis essay. Not only will it improve your essay, it'll improve your grade. Something else to think about too is we're moving into week 3, and we're going to be talking about, we're moving into week 4, but last week in week 3 we talked a little bit about the displacement and politics, right? How politics can affect displacement. And I want you to think about 2 things, right? The things coming up with DACA, which could potentially displace 800,000 people who've been living here in the country for quite some time. And then also the displacement of refugees who might not be able to resettle in the United States because of the travel ban and refugee ban instituted by the executive branch of the government headed by Trump's administration. Take a look at how those policies, those things that are being made official, or at least by executive order being enacted, how they're affecting people on the ground, how they're affecting people and possibly even harming people. Who are they? Who does it harm? Who does it protect? Start thinking about the ins and outs of those different forms of displacement that are a result of policy. So all in all, don't forget that my comments for the Code of Ethics that you received recently are simply meant to be helpful and not authoritative, right? So you don't have to take those as like the truth, right? Or here's what you have to do. It's actually just me trying to suggest some things that might get you thinking about something else. So like I said, this was going to be kind of a long video. Hopefully you've made it this far because I've discussed some things in review that are very important for the class and important moving forward. So thanks again for the incredible participation, in particular on the week 2 discussion, displacement around the world. You guys all pitched in to create what essentially is a database of a bunch of different situations where people are being displaced around the world, and you've analyzed them pretty deeply using the framework for ethical decision making. Really great work on that. I was really happy, and we can refer back to that over and over and over throughout the semester to see what's going on in the world and how people are being displaced and how people are being affected by things like war and famine and natural disasters. We have some of that going on in the United States right now with some of the storms that are coming through. And look at how people are using their